my name is James Keith Walton. And the topic of this conversation has to do with integrity. Integrity is defined as a person who is honest or has a reasonably high moral ethical standard. For many years, the United States was regarded as one of the most ethical countries in the world. One of the American people were considered to have incredible integrity. We were known for that, respected for it. We were respected for the fact that even though we fought hard, we treated our prisoners of war fairly. We had integrity when we fought in battle. We had integrity when we disagreed. We had integrity pretty much with the way we did business. Over time, that has slipped. It started slipping when we started letting our businesses influence our foreign policy. It started slipping when we started to turn to torture after 9/11. Senator John McCain was against and vehemently opposed to us torturing prisoners with waterboarding and the various other methods we were using. He was right. He was correct. We shouldn't have been doing any of that. That is what kept us at a higher level and a step above those other countries in the world and earned us respect. Over the last several years, we've lost a lot of respect. Countries don't trust what we say, and I can understand why. A lot of politicians lie on a regular basis. They create mistruths and untruths. They bend the truth. They manipulate. Rather than bringing us together with leadership, they try to divide us so they can get their little piece of the pie. No one is perfect. No one can say, well, I've never lied. I've never been dishonest. Everyone, at some point in time, has done something that they're not as proud of as they could be. Most of the time, it's in very small ways. I know I myself can be a little sharp-tongued at times. What do I mean by that? Well, I've been known to cuss people out, and I can really do that. And I was over troubleshooting an issue in Dresden, Germany one time, and I was having a meeting with the local team in our headquarters, and they were saying one thing, and I knew it was not the truth. And I got a little heated with them. And afterwards, after the meeting, the local team was there, and I said, hey guys, I'm sorry, I know I got a little heated, and I was probably saying things that were probably a little rude, and I hope you're not offended. And I'll always remember what the one gentleman said. He says, well, James, we don't mind that you got a little hot under the collar, because if you didn't give a crap, then you wouldn't have gotten a little mad. And I thought, well, yeah, I guess that's true. If you do care about something, you are passionate about it. And that's one way to look at it. And that's a good way to look at it. Now, when I'm passionate about something, and if I get a little sharp-tongued, well, it does mean because I do care and I'm concerned. What we have right now in the United States are quite a few people protesting. They're not just protesting, though, they're rioting. They're taking baseball bats and hammers and starting fires and using pyrotechniques and breaking windows and looting. And they're saying, well, they're doing this to protest. That's not how we were set up to do protesting. That's not how it's supposed to work. In the United States, you have a right to vote. You have a right to petition the government. You have a right to protest the government's actions. But you do not have a right to destroy property. You do not have a right to physically attack other people. You do not have a right to burn stuff up. Now, you may disagree with the policy and you may think it's wrong, but like in Portland, for example, that's one of the most get along with each other's cities that you can imagine. I lived in Portland from 2007 to 2013, went to graduate school there, and started working in the semiconductor industry there. My experience throughout all Portland was it was a pretty accepting town. People were nice, genuinely nice people, and they were friendly people. When I see pictures on TV, the videos about the protests going on 2 months now, I'm saddened because I don't really think that's how the majority of people that live in Portland behave. They're not a bunch of violent people that burn stuff up and tear stuff up. If you travel in Portland and you're running on one of the streets, about 3 streets parallel to the main street of Portland, you'll come upon a traffic circle. And in the middle of that traffic circle is a really cool piece of artwork. It's a huge stag. And it's a bronze statue, as I recall. And it was always a kind of fun to, when you're driving along and all of a sudden here's this magnificent piece of art. Protesters were attacking that, defacing it, trying to break it. I don't understand destruction just for the sake of destruction. I was hiking one time in southern Oregon in the Cascades, and if you get into parts of Oregon, it's very remote. It's beautiful, pristine rainforest. And I was hiking along in an area, and I passed old growth forest and trees that were 800, 1,000 years old. And I saw a ledge, and I thought, okay, I'm going to make my way up to that ledge. I want to see the view, And so I go up there, and there was a small footpath to get to that ledge. And this ledge overlooked like 3 or 4 valleys. It was just a spectacular view. And there were these trees they call crepe myrtle trees. They don't grow very fast, but they can be pretty old and not very big. And they're a pretty cool tree. They have nice flowers in the spring. And I was up there, I'm looking around, examining the view, taking in the view, and I see this tree. Someone had gone up there, and they had carved this tree on the backside to the point that this tree was now going to die. Insects were going to destroy this tree. That tree had been on that ledge for maybe 100 years, 100 and some years. And somebody who didn't respect and had no integrity went up there and carved it up. And it was something stupid like Joe was here, and it was just sad. Over the last few years, I've seen where monuments have been destroyed. There's a nice naturally occurring rock along the coast of Oregon that people pushed over. It was like a teetering rock, a balanced rock that had been there since for thousands of years. And somebody thought it would be cool to push it over and ruin it for everybody else. It was a real popular honeymoon spot for people to take their picture. It's not there anymore. There's a tree they call the Joshua tree in California. Those have been vandalized. So all across the country, people are tearing stuff up. Right now they're protesting, but before the protests, for the last 10 years, what we've seen is destructive behavior. Individuals going out and defacing and destroying things for no reason. Some sort of perverse pleasure. Now, I was young once, and I recall being with my buddies, and we never really did anything destructive. But I like to think if I had seen them do something destructive, that I would have had the guts to say to them, stop, no, this is wrong. See, and that's integrity. Now, I was running a job in Columbus, Ohio at one time. This would have been maybe 1988, 89. I was working, and one of the guys, he was a Mexican American, Fernando, came up to me and said, hey, these guys are picking on me. They're calling me little chihuahua and all this other stuff. And I couldn't believe it. So I was the foreman. I called everybody together. I said, hey, we need to have a meeting right now. Yeah, everybody got together, and it was all white guys, all Caucasians, and then Fernando and his partner, the guy that worked with him, the team. And I said, okay, everybody. Fernando works for the company. He's here in the United States. He's legally here. And you guys are insulting him, calling him names because he's of Mexican descent. And I gave him the riot act. I mean, I admit at that time I cursed, and I probably read the riot act to these guys where I was just, I laid into them. And I told them, the next person that does this, and I stole a line from a Clint Eastwood movie, the next person that does anything, I'll kick you right off the fucking planet. Pardon my language, but, we're all human. Why did I do that? Because I have integrity. I'm not going to stand by and let bad things happen. I'm not going to stand around and do nothing. That's why I'm running for president right now. Because I'm not going to stand around and let my country fall into disrepair and disarray because politicians want to steal more money. And that's what it is right now. Politicians want to have power for the sake of power. They don't want to make America more than it was. See, America's always been a great place to live. We have clean air, we have clean water, we have safe environment, a safe place for our children to grow up. We can walk down the streets and be pretty much assured that we're not going to get killed or shot. Our children aren't getting kidnapped. People aren't getting beheaded. This is the United States of America. But politicians on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats and the Republicans, are trying to divide the nation constantly. And I think to myself, well, whatever happened to statesman, statesperson, I guess it would be called now, but they used to have a term called statesman, where you did what was right and best for the country. That's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing that on either side. What we see are people that say, oh, pushing this way, pushing that way, pull, pull, pull. Now, when I look at our presidential candidates we have right now, we have Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. We have Donald Trump and the Republican Party. The Democratic Party is moving ever more to the left, towards socialism. Now, under socialism, no one owns any property. Under socialism, all property is held for the community good. There hasn't been one instance in the history of the world where socialism has worked or where socialism has not led to massive starvation. Now, you say, well, how does that happen? Well, who are the most hardest working people in the United States today? Well, that would be the farmers. They get up every morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and they tend to their herds, they move the sheep to the fields, they move their cattle to the fields, they milk the cows, they go out, they plow the fields, they maintain the fields, they weed the fields, and they harvest the crops. They work very, very, very hard. And if you say to them, well, you should just give your stuff away, they'd look at you and say, well, I'm not going to be a farmer anymore. And that's what happens. That's why there's starvation in those countries where they had socialism, because hardworking people don't see the reason for it. If you give people things, what I've seen in my life, what I've noticed is, if you give somebody something, they don't value it as much as if they earned it. And that's why my plan for safe cities and building new cities where people have ownership but have to work for it, but work for a short period of time, only 7 years. But work for it. They'll value it more. I recall being on job sites and people would borrow my tools. They'd say, hey, can I borrow this drill? Can I borrow this? Can I do that? I'd say, okay. And then half the time I'd get it back and I'd say, well, gosh, my wrenches are all greasy. When I loaned them to you, they weren't greasy. Oh, I guess I forgot to clean them up. Well, you didn't forget to clean them up. You didn't clean them up because they weren't your tools. You didn't take care of that drill because it wasn't your drill. And I've seen that over and over and over again, and I know it's true. And if you've ever had anything that you owned and you've loaned it to someone and they brought it back to you, there's probably a good chance you know what I'm talking about too. And that has to do with integrity also. So if I borrow something, you can bet that I'm going to bring it back. It'll be right. When I'm working at work, if I tell my customer, oh, I'm going to do this, then they know that James is going to do it. And not only is he going to do it, he's going to do it when he says he's going to do it. Because I have integrity. How did I develop integrity? I learned it. I learned it from my mom and my dad. I learned it by them leading by example. And that's where most people, most children learn their morality and their ethics and their integrity. They learn it from their parents. So if you're a parent and you're lying to your friends all the time and your children are watching you lie, they're going to be liars. They're going to think, oh, well, that's how you should be. If you're a parent and you're out there drinking all the time and you're being a bad example, you're just being lazy, then your children are going to say, oh, well, I should be able to drink and party and be lazy. Because that's the example. Children learn from the adults. That's why it's important, if we're going to be a nation that has integrity, that we practice ethical behavior at all times, or as much as is physically possible. Like I said, there's been times when I've lost my temper, and I can say a few unkind things, I know, but the vast majority of the time, it's not like that. So when teachers are teaching elementary school children, and I see the statistic that 50% of elementary school children are cheating in their class, I'm thinking the teachers are not teaching ethical behavior. They're not stopping that cheating. When I see statistics that show 90% of high school students think cheating occurs on a regular basis or somewhat frequently, that means that the teachers are not stopping the cheaters, and they're not standing up with ethical behavior. When I see the statistics that say that 60% of undergraduates cheat on tests and written tests, that means that the professors aren't standing up and being ethical and enforcing ethics. See? Because by that time, they get into college, they've already learned their behavior. So this changes we need to make in our society. We have to lead our children and show them by example. I see so many terrible examples of parenting, and I once was talking to a gentleman, and he said, well, James, a child doesn't come with a manual. There's no book that tells you how to raise children. And I thought to myself, gosh, this guy's never been to a library. I can walk down an aisle in the library and there's rows of books on how to raise children, and techniques to use. So we've got to, in order for us to have a society with more integrity, we've got to start acting with integrity, and we've got to lead by example. We need to get those people who are in power that aren't very ethical, those people who have become rich working for government, we need to get them out. We don't want to elect those people. We don't want them to be in power anymore. They've already had their chance. There was a saying in the last election, drain the swamp. Well, it takes an honest man to recognize a corrupt individual. There's an old saying that you can't cheat an honest man, and that's true. An honest man will look at a deal, and if it sounds too good to be true, will realize that that's probably the case. It's too good to be true, and they'll research it and find out the facts before they act. And that's what politicians are not doing. So I appreciate it if you listen to this video, and I appreciate your attention, and I'd appreciate your vote in November. Write my name in on the ballot. And thank you for listening to me.